Both of them got into an argument. The hotel separated them. So apparently this argument or dispute was big enough to get other people involved.
Yeah.
So that's not speculation, that's fact. He called the parents 11 hours after the incident. That's not speculation, that is fact. Okay, and they are saying that she committed suicide. That is speculation, not fact. So if just going by those three things, there's a lot of room for error and a lot of room for opportunity. And in this case, for the
They said it was suicide. They closed the case. They let him fly home. And right now, as you are watching this video, Ashlee Jenae's body is still sitting in Tanzania. Her family cannot bring her home to bury her. They do not have the full autopsy results. They do not have the surveillance footage. They do not have answers. And the one man who was there, the one man who was present for every single moment of those final hours, has said absolutely nothing to the people who loved her. Not one call, not one message, nothing. So today, we are not doing speculation. We are not going through Twitter threads or YouTube commentary. We are going through this evidence the way a real detective would. Step by step, piece by piece, cold and methodical. And by the time this video is over, you're going to understand exactly why the official ruling does not hold up and exactly what the evidence is pointing toward. Before we continue, subscribe to this channel for more updates on this case, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Let's start with who Ashlee was, because in cases like this, the victim gets reduced to a headline, and she deserves far more than that. Ashlee Robinson, known online as Ashlee Jenae, was 31 years old, Miami-based lifestyle influencer, former college soccer player who attended Texas A&M. Over 130,000 followers on Instagram who showed up every time she posted, for the travel, the fashion, the glimpses into a life that looked both aspirational and genuinely lived. By every single account from every person who knew her, Ashlee was the kind of person who made a room feel different when she walked into it. Joyful, grounded, deeply, fiercely connected to the people she loved. Her friend and PR executive Samantha Britt described her as genuinely happy in the weeks leading up to this trip. Her mother, Yolanda Denise Andres, has said publicly and repeatedly with a steadiness that breaks your heart, Ashlee showed no signs of self-harm. She was not in crisis. She was not the kind of person who would do something like this. She was someone who called home, who showed up, who loved people loudly and without apology. She was someone who, days before she died, was posting birthday videos on the coast of Tanzania, feeding giraffes, kissing her fiancé for the camera, and captioning her last photo with the words, "Exactly where I need to be." That was April 5th, 2026, her 31st birthday. 4 days later, she was dead. She had traveled to Zanzibar with her fiancé, Joe McCann, 45 years old, Miami-based crypto entrepreneur and the founder of an institutional investment firm called Asymmetric Financial. McCann had proposed to Ashlee on April 3rd during a safari at Serval Wildlife in Tanzania. Down on one knee, a lion walking through the background, the whole scene captured on video. She posted it immediately. She was laughing and crying at the same time, reaching for him with both hands. She wrote, "If this is a dream, no one wake me up." The day after, April 4th, they checked into the Zuri Zanzibar, a 5-star luxury resort on the north coast of the island. Private villas, Indian Ocean views, the kind of place where the staff are trained to anticipate your needs before you express them and to make problems disappear without a trace. From the outside, it was everything a birthday engagement trip is supposed to be. Beautiful, romantic, a moment that deserves to be remembered. What happened next means it will be, but not in the way anyone planned. Because here is what was not on Instagram. According to witness accounts gathered by Tanzanian police and confirmed publicly by North Unguja Regional Police Commander Benedict Mapujira, Ashlee and McCann were fighting every single day from the moment they arrived on April 4th. Not once on one bad evening. Every single day. For 5 consecutive days, hotel staff and other guests at the Zuri Zanzibar observed this couple in serious, sustained, escalating conflict. 5 days of arguments visible and audible enough that multiple independent witnesses noticed, remembered, and later came forward to tell police. Let that land. This was not two people having a private disagreement behind closed doors. This was a situation that the people trained to be invisible, luxury resort staff, whose entire job is discretion, could not ignore. The nature of those arguments has not been fully disclosed in any official statement. Unverified social media claims suggest the fights centered on McCann's conduct with other women, including allegations that he was involved with local women in Tanzania during the trip and that an additional companion may have traveled to the island with him. Those specific allegations are unverified at the level of credible journalism. But what is confirmed in the official Tanzanian police record by the police commander's own public statements is that the fighting was constant, that it was serious, and that by the 5th day it had escalated into something the resort could no longer manage on its own. By the evening of April 8th, the Zanzibar made a decision. Hotel management physically separated the couple, moving McCann to a different villa approximately a 10-minute walk from where Ashlee would stay. And then, and I need you to stay with me on this detail because it matters enormously, the resort filed a formal report with Nungwi Police Station that same night. They put in writing their specific concerns about Ashlee Robinson's safety and well-being and handed it to local law enforcement. Think about the weight of that action. A luxury 5-star resort, a business built entirely on the promise of discretion, on protecting wealthy guests from exposure, on making problems quietly go away, decided that what they were seeing was serious enough to override all of that and put a formal alert in front of the police. Before anything happened to Ashlee, before she was found, the police were already in the loop, and no officer came to check on her. Ashlee Robinson was left alone in that villa with nothing but a phone call to her mother and the sound of the Indian Ocean outside her door. That call to her mother is the last time anyone who loved Ashlee heard her voice. She told Yolanda Denise Indres they had gotten into an argument, that hotel staff had moved them to separate rooms. Yolanda heard the distress in her daughter's voice. There was nothing she could do, an ocean between Philadelphia and Zanzibar, and no way to cross it fast enough. She stayed on the line. She waited. The next call never came from Ashlee. Here is what the evidence actually shows, and this is where the official story does not just look questionable. It falls apart. Ashlee Robinson is found unconscious in her villa on the night of April 8th. A belt is found around her neck. There is a mark on her throat that hospital documentation describes as unidentified. She is rushed to hospital and pronounced dead on April 10th. Tanzanian police announce on April 19th that she died by suicide. Case closed, they say. But when you go through the physical record, when you look at what the documentation actually says instead of what the press release says, the conclusion does not hold. Start with the medical record. A report from a second hospital where Ashlee was treated lists her immediate cause of death as cerebral hypoxia by strangulation and suffocation. A lot of people saw that and kept scrolling. A detective stops right there. Because strangulation and hanging are not the same thing in forensic medicine, they are not interchangeable, they are not synonyms. Hanging is documented as suspension hanging. It has its own classification, its own pathological fingerprint, its own specific terminology in medical and forensic records. Strangulation, specifically the word strangulation, refers to compression of the neck by an external force. A hand, a forearm, a ligature applied by another person pressing or pulling from the outside. That word appearing in a hospital record for a woman whose death has been officially ruled a suicide is not a minor detail. It is a significant red flag, and it has never been addressed or explained by Tanzanian investigators. Not once. Not in any press conference. Not in any official statement. Not anywhere in the public record. Now the unidentified mark, and this is the detail that, every time I go back to it, I cannot move past. That same hospital report noted an unidentified mark on Ashlee's neck. Not a mark consistent with the belt found at the scene. not a ligature mark matching the width, the texture, or the buckle impression of the instrument allegedly used. An unidentified mark. Here is why that matters at a forensic level. When someone dies by self-hanging, a pathologist examining the body looks for a ligature mark that runs in an upward V shape, consistent with the body's weight pulling downward against the fixed anchor point. That mark follows the exact profile of whatever material was used. If a belt was used, the mark should show the belt's width, the edge of the leather, the outline of the buckle if it made contact with skin. That mark should be identifiable. It should be traceable directly to the object present at the scene. If the mark on Ashlee's neck is described as unidentified, meaning a trained medical professional who examined her body could not attribute it to the belt that was found, then we have a forensic problem that a suicide ruling does not resolve. It either means a second instrument was involved, or it means a second set of hands was involved. The full autopsy, conducted by a forensic pathologist, would answer this with precision, examining the depth and shape of every injury, the pattern of tissue damage, the presence or absence of defensive wounds, the state of the hyoid bone. That autopsy has been completed. It has not been released to the family. As of the end of April 2026, the people who loved Ashlee Robinson still do not know what it found. Now the location discrepancy, because this is the detail that gets glossed over most, and it is one of the most important inconsistencies on the entire record. Joe McCann told investigators he found Ashlee hung on the door. The official Zanzibar police account, as reported by CBS News, citing police directly, says a hotel worker found her unresponsive in a closet with a belt around her neck. I need you to understand that these are not two people describing the same scene with different memories. A door and a closet are structurally different objects. A self-hanging on a door requires the person to loop a ligature over the top of the door, pull the door closed behind them, and pitch their full body weight forward so the door frame takes the load. The door itself is the anchor. A closet hanging involves a fixed rod or rail running horizontally inside the closet, allowing the body to hang suspended from above. The biomechanics are completely different. The positioning of the body would be completely different. What the scene looks like would be completely different. Two people cannot both be describing the same scene and arrive at a door and a closet. One of these accounts is wrong, and Zanzibar police, to this day, have never acknowledged that these two accounts exist, let alone attempted to reconcile them. The discrepancy has been absorbed into the official narrative as if it simply does not matter. Then the 11-hour gap. This is the part, as a detective, I keep coming back to. Ashlee is found unconscious on the night of April 8th. She is rushed to hospital, and Joe McCann, the man she was engaged to marry, who had been 50 steps away in a separate villa, waited 11 hours before he picked up a phone and called her mother. 11 hours. When he finally called Yolanda Denise Andres, he told her Ashlee had done something to herself. He said she was stable. He said not to worry about it. 11 hours after she had been found unconscious with a mark around her neck. 11 hours after she had been rushed to a hospital. 11 hours after she was already fighting for her life. And the story he told was that she was stable and not to worry. Yolanda waited. The next call she got was from the hotel. Her daughter was dead. And since that single call, the call in which Joe McCann told a mother her daughter was fine when she was not, he has never reached out to the Robinson family again. Multiple news outlets have confirmed they were unable to reach him for comment. The family says they have heard nothing. The man who proposed to Ashlee Robinson 6 days before she died has maintained absolute, total, deliberate silence. Now let's do the full suspect analysis, motive, means, and opportunity, because a detective has to go here, and so do we. Opportunity first. McCann was the only person with intimate knowledge of Ashlee's exact location and movements that night. Even after being separated and moved to a different villa, he knew exactly where she was. And by his own account to investigators, he went back. He says he returned with resort security and found her. But the police account attributes the discovery to a hotel worker. So the question a detective asks immediately is, which version is true, and what happened in the time between? The hotel's key card tracking system logs every single door access, timestamp, card used, direction of entry. If McCann returned when he says he did, accompanied by security, that log will confirm it precisely. If he accessed that room at any earlier time, alone, without a witness, the log will show that too. That key card data has not been released. It has not been provided to the family. It is sitting in a resort database that holds the clearest possible record of who was where and when, and investigators have not made it public. Means the cause of death is strangulation and suffocation. A physically capable 45-year-old man has the physical means to apply that kind of force to a 31-year-old woman. I state that as a matter of forensic possibility, not as an accusation, but it is the kind of statement every detective must put on the table and examine. A thorough forensic autopsy looking at whether this death was self-inflicted or externally applied would look for specific markers. Defensive wounds on Ashlee's hands and forearms from fighting back against someone applying force to her neck. Petechial hemorrhaging, the tiny burst blood vessels that appear in the whites of the eyes under sustained oxygen deprivation. Skin cells or DNA material under her fingernails from a struggle. Bruising patterns on her neck inconsistent with the shape, width, or positioning of the belt found at the scene. Not one of these autopsy findings has been publicly disclosed by Tanzanian investigators. We do not know what the pathologist found, because the autopsy report has not been released. Motive, and this is the piece most people covering this case have barely touched. In December 2025, 4 months before Ashlee's death, 4 months before this trip, Joe McCann publicly shut down the liquid fund of his crypto investment firm, Asymmetric Financial, after the fund lost approximately 78% of its value in a single year. 78%. In the world of institutional investment, that is not a difficult year. That is a catastrophe. McCann had built his entire public identity around being a serious, sophisticated, credible voice in the crypto space. Wall Street history, Silicon Valley connections, over 100,000 followers on X watching him speak with the authority of decades in finance. And then his fund collapsed. His investors were nearly wiped out. There is also the 2024 social media post. After his divorce from ex-wife Ashlee Jackson, finalized in 2021, and before his relationship with Ashlee became public, McCann posted on social media referencing a wife and 2 very young children. Nobody has identified who he was referring to. No credible journalist has confirmed whether McCann was in another significant relationship during the window between his divorce and his engagement to Ashlee. Ashlee Jackson herself, now a senior brand marketing executive at Nike Schemes, has maintained complete silence since Ashlee's death and has made no statement of any kind. The unverified social media claims that the 5 days of arguments were about infidelity, that Ashlee had discovered something, confronted him, and was threatening to do something with what she knew, remain unverified. But the 2024 post is real. The gap in McCann's documented personal history is real. And if Ashlee Robinson had found something during those 5 days that threatened to unravel McCann's carefully managed story, if she had confronted him with something she had learned that he could not afford to have known, that changes everything about the nature of those arguments. It stops being a difficult relationship and becomes a situation where someone with something to lose is cornered. An investigative journalist always asks the same question in cases like this. What did the victim know? What had she found? And what was she going to do with it? I also want to look at the system failures, because this case did not only fail Ashlee Robinson in one place. It failed her at every single level. The hotel reported their concerns to police before she was found, and no officer came. Investigators released public statements that contradicted each other without explanation. On April 13th, Commander Mapudra said Ashlee hanged herself in a wardrobe using cloth from her dress. On April 19th, the formal ruling changed that to her room, and the cloth became a belt. The location changed. The instrument changed. The same commander described the same death 2 different ways in 6 days and offered no explanation for the shift. The Deputy Director of Criminal Investigations declined to comment on the very day the case was declared resolved. The keycard data remains unreleased. The surveillance footage remains unreleased. The full autopsy remains unreleased. Every single category of physical evidence most capable of confirming or refuting the official account is being withheld simultaneously. A detective looking at that pattern does not call it administrative delay. They call it something else entirely. Ashlee's family has not stopped fighting for a single day. Her father, Harry Robinson, traveled to Washington, D.C., and personally lobbied U.S. government officials to establish contact with Tanzanian authorities. He told reporters bluntly, "No one wants to talk to us. Just let us know what happened. That's the only thing we want, the truth." The State Department facilitated contact. The family was told an autopsy was complete. And then silence. No results shared. No body released. No funeral possible. They launched a GoFundMe to cover the cost of fighting for answers across an international jurisdiction. Because in this world, when an American woman dies abroad under disputed circumstances, the burden of finding the truth falls on the family that is already drowning in grief and pays for it out of pocket. As of late April 2026, Joe McCann has not been charged. He is believed to be back in the United States. His passport, confiscated during the investigation, has been returned to him. He walked off that island without a single legal consequence. He has not spoken publicly. He has not reached out to the Robinson family. He has not answered a single question from a single journalist. The man who was the last person with Ashlee Robinson before she died has simply gone back to his life, behind his silence, while her parents sit in Philadelphia waiting to bring their daughter's body home. So here is where a detective lands after going through all of it. The official suicide ruling is premature. It is not supported by the physical evidence on the public record. It is contradicted by a hospital report that uses the word strangulation, not hanging. It is undermined by an unidentified mark that no one has explained. It is weakened by a location discrepancy, a door versus a closet, that has never been reconciled. It is complicated by a timeline with an 11-hour gap that has never been accounted for. It is issued by investigators whose public statements changed substantially between April 13th and April 19th without explanation. And it closes a case while withholding every piece of concrete physical evidence that would either prove or disprove it. That is not how justice works. That is how justice fails. And until the full autopsy is released, until the key card logs are disclosed, until the surveillance footage is reviewed by independent eyes, and until the man at the center of this, the man with motive, with opportunity, with proximity, and with 11 hours of unexplained silence, is required to answer questions with the full scrutiny his role in this demands, Ashlee Jenae's case is not closed. Not in the evidence, not in the public record, and not for the family that loved her and is still, every single day, fighting to bring her home and find the truth of what happened to her in that villa on the night of April 8th. Ashlee Robinson was loved. She is not going to be forgotten, and neither is the truth. We are covering this case every time something breaks. The autopsy release, the key card data, any development from investigators on either side of the Atlantic. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss a single update. And drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me where you are watching from. And tell me, what is the question about this evidence that you still cannot get past? Let's keep this conversation going. The louder we are, the harder this becomes to bury.